works, we're good. Now I can leave myself charged in. So anyway, everybody, this is Kelly Crumdick, and
Hi.
she's been around since the very beginning of my whole. She saw me as a brand new little baby Christian, bright eyed and like just blown away by everything. Um, she was instrumental, her and the group of people she was with, in showing me the truth. Um, they the first time that I met them, they showed me Romans 8:28, or not Romans 8:28, 8:29 and 30, then Colossians 3. And I had to get up and leave because I was shaking so bad because of what they gave me the authority to believe. And so, she's been around from the beginning. She's already been hid for a long time. She knows what she's doing. And she's been around the block, as you guys can say, because she's been doing it for a long time. So anyway, I just want to say hello and welcome to Kelly.
Hi, guys. Good to see you, Josh.
Yeah. Well, it's been pretty interesting. It's been a long time. We just kind of reconnected over the last. How'd you end up finding? Did you just happen to find one of the videos on accident, or?
I've seen them a long time ago. I listened to a few. And then a couple years ago, I went back on to try and find them. I could not find you anywhere. And then, you know how the Lord works. He's like, hey, why don't you see if you can find Josh again? And I did. And you had all of these videos for me to catch up on. It was so exciting. So
It's
I
funny
found
stuff. I
you.
can't believe that there's that many videos already. I look back and oh my god, someone's so full of himself. No, but yeah, it's been a blast. What's been going on with you lately? What's been new?
Well, let's see. So, just a long journey, everything you talk about. So, since gosh, how long has it been? It's been 15 years or more, right?
Yeah, at
And then
least.
we've seen each other a couple times, like at the park, we ran into each other. But, um, it's been one of those journeys. You talk about how you go off and just kind of do your own thing and figure out how it works. One of the, I don't know. So I've been on this journey of just really understanding who I am and learning about vulnerability and, the word, but to experience it in reality. I mean, I had in the past with specific people I felt God had wanted me to share things with, but just to sit down and be vulnerable, it wasn't easy for me. I had so many walls up and I wasn't even aware of it. I mean, I thought I was being honest and open and it was just really a frustrating experience when if you asked me what was vulnerability, um, I could probably sit there and tell you what it is, but I came to a point where I realized I have no clue experientially what the heck that is. Just anybody. And so I went on this journey. I was a long story short, I'll try and keep it short, Josh.
That's it.
But I ran across this person who was so humble and vulnerable and just welcoming. And I just thought, and he stood out. I mean, it was just like, it was so attractive, but it was just so otherworldly. I mean, in a different way of not just attraction, but just like, what the heck is that? Who is this guy? And he was the one that just through our conversations, and this was just through text conversations, I found my triggers. And I just thought, why? What is happening? I thought I was like this open book and just so, and I thought this guy is really I mean, not, he didn't do it on purpose, but I just found myself like putting up a wall. And I had to question myself, why am I doing that? What the heck is still there that I'm not aware of? And so I went on this journey of trying to figure out what are my triggers, why are they there, and what am I afraid of? And I allowed myself to experiment, with
Uh,
people like him. Like he was a stranger, but I allowed myself to just have a conversation with him. And my friends would say, "Why are you doing this? You don't know him." And it's like it has really nothing to do with him. it's just a person that I could experiment with my own self. And so I went on this journey of learning just how to be exactly who I wanted to be. Who am I? What do I want? How do I want to be? And then just putting myself into situations, allowing myself to do that regardless of what that person thought. I could care less. And just recently I shared that experience with somebody and they said, boy, you're tough on, because I would do it with men specifically. And they, gosh, you're so tough on men. I said, no, really, again, it had nothing to do with the men. It was about me and just living in my true authenticity around anybody. And I could care less what they thought, but it was my journey that I had to go through. And I was in an accident a year ago. I got hit by a car walking my dog Kruger.
Oh crap!
And but it really put me, in my own little world because I was pretty much homebound and I'm doing great. But anyways, I was just thinking, through COVID and everything, I've really withdrawn and become a homebody. So I used to be all over the world and doing all kinds of stuff. And I thought, I'm just going to start going when I go back out into the world. I'm just going to just do whatever, my own thing. And it's like, that's what I'm doing. That whatever Josh is talking about, that's what I'm doing. So that's what it is. And so that's why I've really been excited with your videos because it's like, oh, okay, that's okay. I can see what's going on now. I really had no clue. I just was doing whatever
spontaneously.
Yeah, and now it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I have no clue talking to anybody and just sharing stuff. I've reconnected with high school friends and, I share stuff that I would have never shared before. I would have kept secret. It's like, I really have no shame. It's like, I have no shame, no guilt. That's who I am. I'm proud of it and I'm just thankful for everything I've gone through. But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to be so open and free and I still have some triggers, but
yeah, it's just crazy because he doesn't. I mean, it's everything he does is to get us completely unhusked, and it's to his glory, so that we can share life, we can fellowship with each other.
And it really is when I have felt so connected the most is when someone either shares themselves with me or if I'm just like talking and sharing and they'll sit there and they'll say, oh, okay, here, let me share a little bit about myself. And those really has always been what I've wanted to, what I've always felt was like the best connection I've always searched for. And now it just happens so naturally. But again, just putting that like, oh, that's fellowship, where before it would have been just I'm searching to meet somebody that I can have this connection with. But now it's just like, no, that's how it should be really with anybody and everybody.
Yeah, you can generate it that way.
Yeah.
By you producing that authenticity, you generate it in other people. It allows them to come out from under their shell. It's this crazy thing. So you can make it. It's like it's a total the power of grace. It literally it gives people that life and that freedom to come out from underneath their shells. And it's like it's crazy. The gospel is so practical. You can use it for everything to bring people to comfort, to peace, to joy. And you can use it as will once you know how to do it. It's just so crazy. And it's just by you laying down, revealing yourself right before them, giving them all the weapons to hurt you, and you're not even worried about it,
I don't even care. And I love that because that's what I've been telling myself lately. Well, if you ever, like, if you do, because I mean, we do. I mean, I will. I'm not going to lie. I go back to every once in a while. I think, and I start seeing that not a wall, but the religious spirit come out. Like, oh no, and then it's like, so who told you?
Yeah, who told you you're naked?
If you had to act that way.
Yep.
Who told you?
Isn't that the coolest?
So it reminds me, okay, that's Satan. Forget it. Whoever, whatever. It's just not from God. But yeah, it's like my theme right now. So who told you?
Isn't that crazy? Mm-hmm. That was like one of the best verses in the world. You look at that and you read right through it as a young Christian. I read through it 1,000 times. And then one day you go, who told me? Who was it? Who told you that?
Telling you that.
Yeah. Who told you you're naked? Yeah. Was it me or you? And you're like, it was me. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
So dumb, huh? We're so deceived, so tricked. We never had to be. We never had to be ashamed. Never one time.
Never.
Just crazy. And we just didn't. We just didn't have enough knowledge to even know that that was
No.
possible.
No, because you're not taught that. I mean, I was never taught that in church. So you were more fortunate, but I had to like. I mean, it took me, and it's probably still taking me years to unwrap all that I've learned. And I mean, I understood certain things to some extent, but I never had like the picture of I just, it took me years and years. And now it's just like, I can't even tell you how clear everything just is like in the last month or two that I've been listening to you. But even like today, the idea listening to your last video, the concept of, yeah, we just, that's where eh, I mean, the picture of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego
Yeah.
walking in the fire with Jesus, it's like they weren't burned because they were already pure, check,
Yep.
um, but that's us. When we can open ourselves and walk in that fellowship, we're not going to be burned because we've already laid off everything that would be burned up.
Yep.
We're just able to then just go in and enter in and walk in fellowship and
That's so crazy.
fart and
Yep.
talk and
Fart rainbows.
come live on. I haven't washed my hair in like 3 days, and it's like, well, so what?
Yeah,
I don't care.
it's so crazy. And then applying the, you know, so we get so caught up because I remember being young and then teaching doctrine and doctrine and doctrine and doctrine, and nobody grew. Nobody. You sound smart. You know everything, and I could be a walking concordance and whatever, and you get pride in that. But it wasn't until you start revealing yourself that people grow. Till you start crucifying yourself and laying yourself out there and giving them the weapons to abuse you, and you lay it down before them, they just go, "What?" And they're like, "Oh well, hell, since you're unarmed, I'm going to come unarmed." And it's so practical. I don't know. I'm every day I marvel about how we're able to actually wield the power of God and put it in people, calling Jesus in them to bring Jesus out of them.
Yeah.
Man, it's so easy, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's just so dumb. I mean, anyone that says they knew this stuff or they figured this stuff out or they they believed, accepted, and repented, or they found Jesus themselves, it's like you're full of shit. Because there is no, I mean, this plan is so counterintuitive. There's no way we could ever conceive of this stuff. To
Mm-hmm.
by the just the foolishness of preaching, that's it. Just all making people aware of what Christ has done from the foundation of the
Right.
world, that we that nobody even dared to believe him over the years and eons, and God is revealing it to us now. Isn't it crazy? I mean, I don't know, because I read all the big authors and I see the time changes where revelation has happened. You see like Martin Luther, and you move up to you keep moving up to the late 1800s. You move up into the 20s, the Great Awakening, and then you move up to Witness Lee, because Witness Lee was the last great mind that I can see. There was nobody that got as far as he did. And then he didn't even he did you ever read that book, Perfecting Training?
I'm sure I did.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Chris put me onto it, and I read it, but it was and it turned me on to something big because he was trying to figure out what the man of sin was, right?
Mhm.
So that's why they all dressed the same and they all talked the same. They used the same verbiage. They did everything. He was trying to bring everybody into the one spirit, but trying to do it carnally,
Yeah.
externally, trying to bring them in. And he just couldn't get his eyes on what that man of sin was. And he knew everything about it. He saw the symptoms of it. He saw what it was doing, how it was crippling everybody, how it was hypocrisy. But we come along and step on his shoulders, and all of a sudden we know that we go, oh no, that's just literally anything you do in response to condemnation. It's just anything you do to pretend in order to look righteous. That's what that is. And so, we just remove that condemnation, and now we are the one spirit. We have, like, if you got on the Discord yet? The group of young people that have been kind of gathering on Discord. Have you seen that yet? I
No.
need to send you a link.
Yeah, you
Well,
will.
they're like, so they're like all these years that, like you've studied, and then all the years that I've studied, and we're barely here, right? Well, then these kids hear it right now, and they're already off and running.
Wow.
Like they're starting at this moment. And so and I don't get to be on there as much as I want because I'm so busy in life, but um, it's just crazy watching them. Like, how I'm an advantage because I didn't have the religious influence for all my whole life, right? I came in as an atheist, then I got to blast off. Well, then you get these young guys like Patrick or Rob or, these guys are just taking off right where we are now with the full knowledge. They look at the scripture and it just opens up to them like no problem. They see everything we do as it is just crazy, and now they're off and running. And it's one of the most rewarding things that you can ever see as a teacher. You
Yeah,
know,
I can imagine.
yeah. And I don't, and I had no idea I influenced. I thought all these guys knew what they were doing. Was by the time that they were contacting me, they were already preaching the word, and I'm like, oh, you guys see it too, right on. And I had no idea it was any part of that influence,
Hmm.
which is great. But then they're all off with this total absolute security. They're totally bold about it. They have the complete authority, and it is really awesome. And I've been waiting for a long time for it to kind of happen like this, because you know how it is where you go and preach and you're lonely and nobody will hear you. And if you do speak to them, all you get is nothing but fire and crass back at you,
You
no
get
matter what you do.
yeah, you get all these. What if it's on Facebook? You see these posts and you're like, are they? Is that supposed to be pointed towards me? Oh well. So my thing is, well, who's telling you?
I know.
It's like doesn't matter.
I
I mean,
know.
it's up to them to pay, to listen or not. It's not up to me. So all I can do is just share. But
Brings a whole new meaning to the helmet of salvation,
yeah,
to where nothing gets to your mind anymore, because you're just like the one that matters has already declared me holy and without blame before him in love. I'm perfect and entire, lacking in nothing. Even though I walk by sight, if I walk by sight, I'd be go, yep, that guy's got some problems. But the thing is, I can't walk that way. I have to look in the spirit, and then we walk because the spirit is the reality, and the carnal is the lie. You know, it's just really interesting. And so you hear the Lord, and that's all you hear. There's nothing else. Then he just starts leading you to pasture and to shade and to water, and you're literally being led by the Holy Spirit, like you're talking about. You're just going out and just where you just go out and kind of willy nilly go around until you start figuring out how to be led. And then exercising your spirit is something that we have to practice to do. You don't just, it's like, throwing with your left hand. You're not great at it, unless you're left-handed. But for me, it's like you have to practice and practice to be able to throw with your left hand. Well, with the spirit, it's literally you have to learn how to use it. It's like a whole nother organ, you know, and
and
it's hilarious.
you just own it. I mean, even before listening to you, like there's some things I've done, obviously, in my experimentation and my grace. I just tell people, I just give myself grace to do that. So no big deal. But knowing that people could use that against you, it's just still like I walk around like it doesn't matter because it doesn't hurt me. If they know, they know, but I still know who I am and I can still go. Like my biggest thing was I just want to learn how to play and laugh and be myself regardless of who I'm with. So that was kind of like my journey of being able to do that. And still, it's like, if they know the things I've done, and they want to use that against me, it doesn't really matter because I'm still just going to play. And so for me, my vision internally is like that's what Eve would have been doing
Yeah.
before the fall. She would have
Yep.
just been, regardless of whatever. There was no guilt. So why should I walk around in this world with guilt? Let's give myself grace. And it's just like, so, and of course now I'll say, so who's telling you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've gotten to that point where I am just so free and internally, um, that's how I see myself walking in this world, like Eve, just free, secure, able to be open, raw, naked, and it doesn't really matter what anyone else. And the funny thing is, really, no one's used anything against me. because I'm sure it's something similar to that awe that I had of that one person. Like, who the heck is this person? Because he shared things with me, and it never even impacted the way I looked at him. And so it was like my first picture of like, and so I'm sure that's got to be for the most part what people are going to think if you when you do that, when you become vulnerable, the impact it it
Yeah.
it doesn't even affect the way you look at people.
And
It's
nothing to fear but
nothing.
fear itself.
Yeah, it's just a freaking fear. Yeah,
Yeah. Plus, you're witnessing of God's greatness too, whenever it doesn't shake your confidence in Him whenever they attack you.
yeah,
And so that even they don't realize it that you're displaying the majesty and the power of God right to them, and the fact that they see everything, they know your mess is up, but you're like, yeah, but there's Jesus. Jesus
but
has done it
I
all on my
have
behalf.
yeah,
I'm done. But what happens? They don't realize that even in their persecution, you're giving them hope, and they don't even realize you're doing it
yeah,
by your confidence in the Messiah. To where you know what I mean, and that's funny because we're always tempted to look at ourselves, but and try to be good and try to wonder what people are going to think about us. Which, like you said, it cripples us. But like, what happens is that you probably wouldn't even react the way you think they would, anyways.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It's so funny how much everything the bars are in our minds. Literally, all of the captivity, everything is in our conscience.
It's all in the conscience. Yeah.
So, and that's where Hebrews 10 really gets me. For it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats, to take away sin. For if it were not so, from the very first sacrifice, the worshiper being once purged would have no more conscience of sins. And so you're like, oh, well, wait a minute. A perfect sacrifice has happened. We should not have conscience of sins.
Mm.
And then you go down further where it talks about he sanctified forever them whom he sanctified, then he perfected forever them whom he sanctified. You're like, oh, all written in the past tense. You're like, oh, well, wait a minute. There's got to be something for me to do here, right? But it's all him. It's all to his glory, all to his finished, completed victory. And it wasn't just 2,000 years ago. It was from the very, very foundation of the world. And God said on the seventh day, he rested from everything he created and made. So that's meaning seeing the end from the beginning. And he says it's very good. And we're just distracted here in the middle, seeing the plan being worked out and being caught up in all the drudgery and not seeing the truth, you know? And it's just so amazing to be able to escape.
And it brings healing. It brings that healing to the land. I mean, when you can just be so honest and open to a person that's hurting and struggling, I don't know. You just have the Lord just uses that as like a salve, and it brings it
Yep.
around about their own healing because really I think our most of our struggles, and you've talked about this, everything that we're seeing in the outward is because of the church's um, it's just an outward appearance of what the church. I mean, even everything that's going on in the world that is because of the church's lack of bringing. I don't even have the right words for it. Being um, the true form of what a Christian is. Well, but I don't have the words. I'm sorry. But
Yeah.
but I see that, and but everyone's hurt is because of their inability to be who they are. And so they just add all this stuff because they're trying to find out who they are. And we all get to that point, I think, of being so frustrated with ourselves. We either get depressed, we get addicted, we go off and do all this stuff because we're just so broken because we just don't know who we are. We can't be who we are. We know that in our minds, we have all these things that we know we've done and we don't want anyone to know about, but it comes out whether we want it to or not in one form or another. But when that person can hear another person just be real, it allows them to be real. I
Yeah.
remember my daughter was struggling with depression and she would pace back and forth in my room in the middle of the night because she couldn't sleep. And she was, I just knew. I knew she was struggling with, like, she wanted to cuss and scream and just be ugly, but she was afraid. I just said, you can do whatever you want. You can cuss, you can scream, you can yell. And then God said, well, why don't you just share some of the things you went through?
Nice.
And my mind was like, well, she's been with me all my life. She knows. But then he said, no, she hasn't seen your inner struggles, and she didn't know, she hasn't seen the skills you had to rely on to get to the point that she saw.
Yeah. It's
Share
good.
those steps with her, and it allowed her. Then she goes, I want to cuss. I said, well, cuss, scream, yell, do whatever you want to do. I just let her be, without any inhibitions, express those frustrations and the
Yeah.
anger and her imperfections, and then just be there and love her. And then, just, we all need that
Yep.
at different times in our lives. We need to be able to be who we are, and you know
That way, in 2 minutes and being genuine, you can transfer love and fellowship and life to someone in 2 minutes more than you could in 20 years when you're a hypocrite.
hmm
It does nothing as a hypocrite. It does nothing to honor God. It does nothing to honor each other. It does nothing. It stifles the transmission of the Holy Spirit between us and the life. I mean, life is just a better way to put everything now, because seeing the difference between the knowledge of good and evil, and then everything that is applied to whatever we think is religious only applies to death. It can never, no matter how good you are, no matter what, it can never escape death. The only thing that matters is to escape death, right? And it's the only thing that matters is to reconnect to life. And that's it. And then that's the manner by which we do it, is helping people disrobe. I mean, it's really funny.
I love that, escape death. And at that point, my daughter needed to escape death. She needed to escape, and I gave her the key to unlock that door so she could escape out of that prison she had put herself in.
Yep. And that's literally the very the foundation of the gospel, and what Christ has done is in order to cause us to disrobe, to be clothed in him and not in our own selves. And we do it instinctually, like we were talking earlier. You're doing so much stuff instinctually, learning to walk in the spirit instinctually. And that's the same way I did it. And then I figured out what I was doing. I'm like, oh, I'm walking in the spirit. This is how you do it. you know and now we can show other people how to do it, and literally helping them to disrobe. And I think it's funny because Nick and I got on here the other day. You know Nick Newson? I don't know, he lives in Elderwood. He's a good dude. But we got on there and we were just farting around because we wanted to show people that we're not all high and mighty. We're not stuck up. We don't care. This isn't about us looking good or being how great we are in our scriptures and the knowledge that we've had and the things we've done. We don't care. What we need to do is just show people, dude, be yourself. That's what God made you to be. Be free from what you think you ought to be, and be free to be what you are. And nobody's met themselves yet because they've been so busy trying to pretend to be something that would get them accolades and to keep them from getting bad treatment. So we've been so busy making this false man of sin our entire lives that we've never ever met ourselves, not one time.
And it's a
No.
journey.
Yeah. And then the Lord goes, "Oh, follow me," and then you meet yourself for the first time. You see what your gifts are and your talents and the things you really enjoy. And you get to follow and be the things that bring you joy. When God says he's going to lead you to the desires of your heart, it's
hmm
not the things you think you want. It's the things that he put in you to love. And he will lead you to those things if you, by the Holy Spirit, like Philippians 3, when it says, is God all the while energizing your spirit, both the will and to do the things of his good pleasure. So you go around being unshucked from all the things you ought to be doing, and then live by the things you want to be doing. You will always lead yourself to the things you want to do and enjoy and love.
Yep.
It's so simple, so simple, you know. And the years and years of just trying to, beat myself up and doubting everything, and because everybody was going crazy against me. I mean, I know you guys know. Everyone thought you're a cult leader. I was a cult leader. Everyone I know is a part of a cult, and I'm going. But I have those. You guys can't even argue with me. I'm showing you scripture after scripture after scripture, and you just won't hear it. And it's just you go in that frustration and frustration and frustration. And finally, luckily I ran into you guys. I'll never forget meeting Bruce in the gym. He's wearing a Newsboys shirt, and I'm like, oh, I go, is that a Christian shirt? He says, Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I've been to like, and I was just opening up before him. But then I said, man, there's got to be more. I told him, there's got to be more. And I said, I've been to every Bible study, every church in this entire town, and everything's the same. Everybody's just talking about not masturbating. That's all they care about. There's got to be more than this, right? And he's like, oh, I go to a Bible study. It's pretty deep. And I'm like, oh, I've heard that before. And so, anyways, and then the first time I went there, I got my bell rung. It was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
I remember that
Yep.
night. Yep.
And then that stuff, what we knew then is still now so small, but it's still like a fractal. You know what I mean? It's like it's the small portion of the larger thing. It was definitely that was the truth then as much as it is the truth now. But now everything is just blown up.
Everything's just like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I can imagine, I mean, what that group you're talking about, how, they don't have to suffer through all the things that we had in our past of what we added on to take off.
Yes.
They just get to start right off. And I'm sure, just like any other human, though, they have maybe some triggers or some.
Oh, sure.
I can remember telling myself, okay, Kelly, you're like, you have all these rooms. This is so way in the back, but it was the beginning. You have all these rooms. Now go into each one of them, and some were easy, but other ones were like, I don't want to go in there. I don't want to see what's in there. I mean, internally, it was like I knew there was something in there. And do I have some like horrible hidden thing? No, but it was just, I think because I knew I was going in with the Lord and I hadn't really totally understood that it's okay to go in there with Him. But we all have these areas that we're still wondering, is this going to still be okay? Regardless of how new and easy it is, as humans, we all still have, okay, but what about this? What about this? So I'm hoping for them. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't imagine. Gosh, maybe it isn't for them, but as a human, I think it would be. But I would love to be able to hear what they say and what their experiences.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we're gonna hear a lot from them here soon. I mean, literally. I mean, I've read my Bible. I've read it now so many times. I've done everything. I've, preaching on the streets, done everything. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just funny. Been to foreign countries, got arrested in foreign nations, did all these crazy things. It was just for me. It was to prove to myself that I was a Christian. And God's like, oh yeah, I'm really proud of you. I mean, He blessed me and honored me in the things I did. But it was pretty funny realizing that everything I did was just for me. It wasn't for God. I was still trying to prove to myself that I was actually a Christian. And I risked my life and my freedom in foreign countries. And I mean, to show you how radical I was willing to be of my flesh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you find that out and you're just going, God. But then you go through all this up and downs and all these crazy things and failing miserably. And, like you going and abusing my grace and trying to figure the lines of the grace. Because when I went to learn to live in the Spirit, I went like one side to the other trying to figure out what the heck's going on because I knew I couldn't live by the law and I couldn't live by my understanding. And so I had to restart everything. I went on the premise that everything that I'd been told by the church was a lie. And it was every single thing. But then I had to learn. And then all of a sudden, then you're being controlled by the Holy Spirit. Now you're going, oh, what brings me joy, fulfillment, and wholesomeness, this is the way I go. If I feel that quenching of my spirit, that's where you don't go. It's just that simple. It's so easy. And so then you live by it, but then now you're so addicted to that wholesomeness and that feeling of absolute peace and security and joy. And every single day you're addicted to it. You can't. And so, like, if I was going to go drink a beer or do any type of drug or anything, I would have done when I was in my stupor, that would have brought me some peace or some relief. Now it brings me down like 124s, if anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My biggest struggle was, on my own, I was great with the Holy Spirit, because I didn't have anything to like interrupt that. On my own, I was good. Trying to bring that into the Christian realm or around other people, I failed miserably every time. How do I take that now into my world and live this in a daily life? That's where I failed miserably because I didn't know how to do that. I could do it as long as I was on my own, or in my own, relationship with the Lord. I didn't know how to translate that into my, I'm going to say Christian walk, which I don't have anymore, but at the time, or into just my daily world life with everybody. And I've learned how to through the years. And again, it has been a long journey. Now it's just my life. It's I just go anywhere. And I think I tell myself that regardless of where I go, it doesn't matter. If I'm just going to live who I am, how I want to live, and I'm going to do what I want to do regardless. And that's just what I've taken into anywhere I go. And so I don't have that struggle anymore. I mean, I just know that regardless of where I go, what I do, I no longer have, and this has been a long time, but I no longer have that like question, even this, is this okay? It's like, it is okay. I am just like so free and so secure in my love with the Lord that, and his love for me, he just doesn't, he's proven over and over and over. And I have pushed my limits, believe me, just to find out. And he has always come through, like, just like, yeah, I'm still good with you. I still absolutely adore you and love you. I mean, there's nothing you can do that will surprise me.
Oh, so
And
great.
it's never,
Awesome.
maybe want to kill somebody or, we don't go out and do all these horrible things just because we have freedom, but we're able to go out and just be like a child. I mean, that's how I live. I feel like I'm just not an immature, person or an incapable child, but free as a child, that childlike joy. And I don't know, it's just interesting.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
But I
So,
struggled with it so long, and no longer. It's like
that's how I had to learn everything. Is he made me struggle, struggle, struggle until I couldn't struggle anymore. I'm like, damn it. I would like to say that I stopped struggling, but it was like he just wore me out. I'm like, okay,
oh
Uncle.
yeah, my journey has not been easy, and it has been long. But in all of it, it was just a tearing down, a breaking down, and the freer I got, the more joy. It's like it addicts you. Like you just want to get closer and closer and closer, and like just I don't even know if. I mean, I'm sure I will. Again, like I said, I probably have hidden triggers that I don't even know of. I'm sure, there are things that will cause them to come up, and then hopefully I'm quicker at like being aware of what is going on. But I want anyone out there listening. It was not an overnight thing. It's you have to be willing to have grace on yourself, and you really do have to just get out there and push the limits, push
Yeah,
yourself.
have the courage to push the limits,
There you go.
to be able to get out of convention.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's really hard to do. But once people do it, that's where it's freedom.
absolutely. Yep. Yep.
And once you stop being afraid, you feel good. Been reading that Who Moved Your Cheese. Have you ever read that book, Who Moved Your Cheese, or Who Moved My Cheese?
No.
It's like a business book, but I've been reading it. They have a children's version, so I've been reading it for my kids. And it's funny is that it can be so applied to the spirit, because it's just literally like you said. It's just as soon as you stop being afraid, you feel better. You start walking. You have anyway. It's just once you start getting out on the trail. Was it you? I think you guys showed me that Brendan Manning's book, The Relentless Tenderness of Jesus. Remember the cowboy Christians versus the settler Christians.
That sounds familiar, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, well, that's a really funny one. If anybody ever gets a chance, you can Google just that section of the book. It's called "The Relentless Tenderness of Jesus" by Brendan Manning, and there's a part where he compares like city dwellers and cowboys as far as how to walk the two different types of Christianity, and he was onto something big time back then. Brendan Manning was, and it was really interesting. He noticed the difference between people who were intimate with God versus the ones that he was up in this high building up there. They knew he was there, but You know what I mean? He was doing his business, but nobody ever knew him. But the settlers, they're on the trail with him. They're going through every battle with him, and he's with them. And it's really an interesting. It's a really really good book if you guys get a chance to read it. It'll bring some tears to you. But that spot in particular, check it out and just Google it. You'll find it. It's easy. But settler theology versus city theology, it's really good. But yeah, because it was The Lion and the Lamb. And I remember you guys showed me that Paradigm Quest. I read that one too, and a bunch of other books way back then that were it was pretty fun. That was a good book. I'm actually looking for that one again to give to my daughter.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, it's a really good basic book to kind of help you to see it's not what the world isn't what you're told it is.
And it's so easy, and it really is just our own little. I'll give an example. Hopefully, you guys are all cool with it, but just an example recently that happened where this is our pushing our limits. Wherever we are, whoever we're with, and just not being afraid. But so I reconnected with some high school friends, and just this summer we went to the coast together. And we kind of met at reunions and so forth. But we went to the coast. High school girlfriend, another one that I knew, but I was a little closer to her sister, and then there was a guy that I knew. I remember who he was, but I didn't really know him anyway. So we're all sitting around, we're having coffee. We all stayed in an Airbnb, and I don't really know them real well. We're all reconnecting, so they don't know who I am. They don't know where I am. And you in high school you have all those insecurities, and you try to be perfect and all of that. And so we're sitting around talking, and Jeanette goes, "So, do you remember that party that you went to?" And that for me was like, oh gosh, I didn't want my girlfriends back in high school to know the parties that I went to. So it's like, are you seriously? I'm like, oh gosh, here we go, another, chance to bring down the wall.
Yeah.
And are you going to be able to do it, Kelly? These are things going through my thought. Can you do it here too? Can I push that limit here? And so she's like, and Laura was her sister that I was friends with. She goes, so Laura was saying that at that party you were sitting on Bob's lap, and Laura ended up marrying Bob. And I'm like, I didn't sit on Bob's lap. In my mind, I'm thinking, but I sat on Greg's lap. And so I'm just like, going back and forth. No, I didn't sit on Bob's. She's like, yes, you did. She said that you and I sat on Bob's lap, and I'm trying to think. And then just to try not to be perfect Kelly, I thought, I'm just going to share with them. Hey, so everybody there, I just said, well, I didn't sit on Bob's lap, but I did sit on Greg's lap. We just laughed. And it was like, hey, gosh, in my mind, I'm thinking, I can even do it here. And they did not, it wasn't like, oh my God, we had the best time. And I think just bringing down that wall and not trying to pretend and just making light of it and just, welcoming them in. We had the best time the whole weekend. There was no pretense on anybody's side, but, these things happen throughout our life. And so it's just every opportunity we have, hey, am I going to be real? Am I going to be true? It's nothing big. It isn't something we go out to conquer. It's just, here I am with my friends, and they never knew I sat on Greg's lap. I never let them know I went to that party because there were some shenanigans that went on. But hey, now I am confident enough in who I am and who the Lord has made me, and they're Christians. I didn't have to pretend. Yeah, heck yeah, I sat on Greg's lap.
Yeah, it's so cool
that's
that, and
all
that's
it is, just, hey, can I even open that door? Yep, I can expose that. Yeah, no big deal. I don't have to hide. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to act like I'm perfect.
that's worshiping God. And people lose sight of that. That is literally, when you're doing that, you're actually actively worshiping God. Because you're, like you said, you're crucifying yourself so that He Himself will be gaining.
Yeah.
It's so funny, and nobody puts those two together, because you see how hard it is and what's going on, And that's literally, it's the highest worship before God, that you have the courage, because it means that you honor him, that you believe what he said about you, that you're manifesting it in front of those other people, that you had such a huge impact on them without even realizing it, you know?
And definitely, I mean, and definitely, I think it just allowed a better weekend. We could all just be, we were all safe,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, cut through all the BS and not waste your money. It was a sucky time. Yeah. Let's break out some beers. You know. I know, it isn't so great. I don't know. I used to remember, meeting people and you're going, God, and I got to go through all the bullshit of getting to know them and figuring out what triggers them and whatever else. And now you're just like, who cares? you know, if you
Yeah,
don't like what I got to say, someone else will. I don't care. Go away or stay. And the funniest thing is that the people that I don't expect are the ones that actually receive the most.
exactly. Yep.
The ones that I think that are going to be the most receptive are the ones with the biggest tickets of their butt sometimes.
Yeah.
Because like they're so busy putting on the effect that they're so cool, that they're so tolerant, and they're so, but it's just a facade, you know. I don't know. I've been watching my kids and my wife, and and trying to show, because everybody, the Instagram posts and the Facebook posts, and everybody looks like they're doing so good, and I'm like, and everybody's lying. Everybody's lying. There is no everybody's putting their best face forward. Imagine if they could actually talk about their problems. Imagine if they could talk about what they really heard about and the things they're afraid of, like you did with your daughter. Allow them to have the healing. You know, my neighbor paid me a huge compliment yesterday. He's about ready to move out, but I didn't. I would sit with him in the gospel and things like that, and listen to him and hear him went through a divorce and everything else. And I was just out there, chatting with him, because just And he says that nobody had done that for him. He says, "You're the only one that would ever sit and talk with me." And I'm like, "Oh, I wasn't having a hard time doing it." But I didn't realize I was having an effect on him. And he told me yesterday. I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't know. I was just out there with him and bullshitting and sharing with him and trying to, help him know the Lord deeper. Of course, that's always my goal. But again, it's just that laying myself down and then showing that I'm no, like, according to the world, I'm no saint. According to what God says, I'm Saint Joshua. This is the way it is,
Yeah.
you know. But to the rest of the world, nobody would ever think to look at me and think that that's a holy man, even though I'm a pretty dang holy man.
Yeah. We are. Yeah.
which is funny, because God's holiness looks so simple. Kelly's holy.
Huh.
You know,
No, I, what really became clear to me of purity, people try to be pure and they get all freaked out because they're not pure, and they all, hide because they're not pure because of all this. And I thought, purity really is, and just really, again, just so many pictures, and it's just like just boom, 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 this last month or two. Purity really is just nothing added.
good. I like
Nothing
that. That's really good.
added. It's
Really
like, and
good.
that's all Christ is trying to do, is get us to take off, get it out, get all purified, get rid of all the junk that we've added and we tried to add on. And another picture for me that really, really made it so clear is, if we look, for me at least, if we look at the celebrities that have destroyed their beauty
Oh yeah.
because they've put all this, the lip enhancers
Ugh.
and the cheekbones and everything that they do. It just looks horrible. And that's really what got, and it's just really their beauty was just who they were already naturally. They didn't need to add on. But in our
Yeah.
sickness, in our humanness, we think we need to add on. And yet, God still sees the beauty in us, He still loves us. But really, if we could fathom that when we try to add on any type of holiness or any type of perfection or any type of religiosity, that's all we're doing to ourselves, is adding these fillers that are making us so, he just wants us to have nothing. Take it off. Take it all off. Take it off. Go back to what Eve, looked like. She was naked, pure. And that's all purity is just the removal of anything that we would want to add, because it's already perfect.
Yeah.
We're
That's awesome.
already perfect.
Yep, that's awesome. Yeah, and having the audacity to believe that.
And having the audacity to believe that with everything that we've
Yep.
done. Oh,
Yep. And then that's humility before God. You're like, what? It's humble for God to say that I am perfect because of God. Weird.
yeah. And
I'm holy without blame.
he can look through past all of that,
Yep.
even if we still have it on us, and
I
still
know, like
see that
we can hide from him.
and that just and he just yeah, and anything that we could question, this even, he's like, yeah, not a big thing. He's so be bold enough and brave enough to question him and even ask even this, and he'll be and let him tell you yes,
Yeah.
yes,
You still love me even now when I do this,
yep,
even when I do that. Yeah, I went through that experientially big time. Even now? Are you sure? Yep. Yeah. That's how that tenderness is what gets us,
mm-hmm.
puts us on our knees. There's no, my wife doesn't like to hear it, but the highest form of love there is commitment. That God isn't in love with us because of our innateness and because of our beauty that he can't like resist us. That's not the way it is. His unconditional love is a choice to love us. And it's like, wow, that's the foundation of everything, is that he is willingly committed himself to us no matter what. And it's like, wow. And that's like what puts, I mean, as a husband, me understanding that and being able to have a wife, she showed up right when I understood that. We're just strangers in the world. But as you start realizing that it's all about you addicting yourself, it's you having the substance in yourself to be able to give of yourself. That's what everything's about. But as long as we're so busy and caught up and empty, we can't bless anyone.
Mm-mm.
We can't bless ourselves. We can't bless God. We can't bless anybody because
Or when we
we
try to
need to take.
yeah, or when we're trying to create that movement, and that's the biggest sign for me. I loved your video the other day of the horror. It was probably an old one, but the church as a horror. But it's so true because as women, we do want to, instinctively, a woman wants to get a reaction from a man. So we will try and create movement. And when we think about it in our church or as a Christian, when we're not connected or feeling connected to the Lord, when we have started to add on or look away or disconnect, the first thing we find ourselves doing is wanting to try and get movement, try and get God to move, trying to get his acceptance, trying to, if you think about it as of a woman who's not secure in the way the guy feels about her, she's going to try and get a reaction. And she will move out to see what he's going to do, to see if he will respond. So why? She'll be secure. Well, we do that with God
Yeah.
all the time. If we're not secure, we're going to try and step out to see if he's going to bless, to see if so we can be secure, and that's completely the wrong thing to do.
Yep. Like
It's
the
like
Shunammite.
it does exactly. It doesn't work with a man, and it is not what God wants. It's not going to work with God. We're just going to disconnect more, and then we strive more. The only thing we can do is just be ourselves,
Oh,
and
thou fairest among women.
yeah, and just
Songs.
wait
Yeah.
and be confident, in His love, and He will come.
I love that. That Song of Solomon, I just did a video on a while back.
Yeah,
And it
that's
talks where she mentions 3 times, do not wake up love before he chooses.
mm-hmm.
And that's where that kind of sunk in big time to me in that video, because it's literally like you're saying, is that we in our insecurity, that's when we do those rash things. And so that's why he's making that security in us. And the way that he did it was like when that part where he comes up to her in the lattice and he lets her catch him admiring her
Mm-hmm.
with unabashedness. I mean, because she was feeling insecure, whatnot, but the things he was doing, where he called her the most beautiful, and every time she would come, "Oh, I'm dark and I'm this and this," and he's like, "Oh, you're lovely, and your teeth are perfect, and you're da, 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 da," And then you go to that part where in the lattice, and he's where she's sitting there not willing, and he just lets her catch him because of his kingness. It's not creepy when a
Yeah.
king does it. You know what I mean? And she's and you can see her desire for him, and the fact that everything he was doing was to make her secure, but she still wouldn't be secure, which was interesting. And the part when she wouldn't open the door for him because she says, "Oh, I've already got my clothes on and I can't come to the door." Well, he didn't get mad. He just left and left a little reminder of himself and left. And then she came out searching for him, searching for him. That's where she got abused until she finds him again. And she takes him to the bed. I mean, it's such a perfect walk of our experience walking with Christ and the way that he enfolds us. I keep seeing, like you're talking about, the pearls into the gates of the kingdom, or each individual pearls. Well, it's like we're being covered with security in every way, that every office that Christ is and he's performed is to promote that security in us, that absolute confidence in him. That's like everything that gets us into the kingdom. And it's just so amazing that he would. And so, like, when people start saying, like, like Hitler can't go to heaven. Well, you're judging carnally. You're not looking at you're not looking at the truth of things. You're looking carnally. You have to see whether or not did Christ pay his sins or not. We don't like it, but the thing is, if he's redeemed, then you're even more redeemed, kind of thing. Even though we're all murderers, but in our own outward thinking, it would be advantageous for us the more people that would be saved. You know, it's interesting to me that all of creation is just waiting to be reconciled. You know, and it's just the church has not once even spoken the word.
Mm.
Never. I mean, maybe back in the time of the apostles, when the apostles were doing it, but immediately they're writing epistles trying to correct them back to the word. I mean, it's immediately. And so then the church goes away. It completely moves away from the word, and there's nobody that has heard the word since the time of the apostles.
Yeah.
Nobody. And I can go back because I've been through all the old authors, and nobody's talking about this. You see people. I can see where people's eyes have been waking up through the centuries. The major one was Martin Luther, but then he was still very religious, but he made a massive jump forward. Him more than anyone. I mean, Calvin and all those guys, they were all right. Wycliffe, they were all cool, but no one was like Luther. Nobody. And then you come along, and you come up through the centuries, and finally, like I said, the last one was probably Witness Lee. And he came on top of Watchman Nee, which was also pretty awesome. But Watchman Nee was nowhere near where Witness Lee was. But then now we're at the next generation. Right now, we're in the place where, I mean, we're in like totally uncharted territory. It hasn't been since the time of the apostles that we can see what we're seeing right now.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, I really believe we're the generation, just for the fact of what we can see and that we can understand. There's nothing hid from us in the scriptures anymore. It's it's just clearly everything was to bring us to Christ. That's it. To show him, to see that he was one. That's it. And I'm sure there'll be other things showing it deeper, but the main thing is for us to see that he has completed everything. It's always been complete. It's never been in doubt, nor has it ever been in question. Only us and Satan and the fallen angels and the powers and principalities that don't see. But we have a mind. We have an access into their mind because we see just what they see whenever we're apart from God. So they can't fathom this. They don't even understand what's going on.
Mm.
Though you tell them till you're blue in the face, like when we talk to somebody who's not ready to hear the word, and you can waste 2 hours telling them perfectly and accurately and bringing up the right scriptures, every one in a row, and it just goes whoop right over their head. So you're
Yep.
like, yep, that all sounds really good, but no, you're all son of a bitch, wasted all that time.
Because what about? What about? What about?
Yeah, the lines. Oh, well, that gives you license to sin. Oh, but that you're like, oh, and you just go into automatic mode. You're like, Neo in the Matrix. You're just like, okay, that's stupid. Let's just destroy that argument real quick. Free will, yeah, no, that doesn't work.
And just on some of the videos that I've been listening to, where it's so clear, you keep saying like, well, lay off or throw off, and so even though you're going through those passages that people would use, well, what about this? And what about that? Well, then it says, well, then lay off or throw it off. That's all you do. Then just get rid of it. Get
Yep.
rid of it. I don't know, it just seems so clear. It's hard to explain. Like even like let's say the lady of the well.
Yeah.
God says, okay, well then go out and sin no more. And really all it was is if you stop and think about it, is he exposed her
Yep.
so she could walk with him now freely, nothing to hide, and go and sin no more. All that meant is, you know what, just keep it off. Not
Yep.
don't go back to
Yep.
your person you're living with, or don't stop, living in fornication. All it was just don't go sin anymore. Just don't
Yep.
try and hide it anymore. Don't live in this freedom.
Yep.
And it's just so clear. It's not about, okay, now you've got to go get married or you've got to stop living with this guy. That
Yep.
wasn't sin.
Yep.
The sin was like her, or that her eyes were opened. You know everything about me. Yeah, I do. And you're good.
Yep. Yep. She was the first. She was the first evangelist.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And she went and told the whole city, and they believed.
Yep. And what does she say? I met a man who knew everything about me. Yeah.
Yep. And that's how he got me. Is he showed me everything when I first met him.
Mm-hmm.
He showed me everything I was so ashamed of and everything I hated about myself. And while I'm expecting just to get a whooping, all I hear is "I love you," and I was free. Just in 1 second, I'm what the hell? And it took me years to figure out what he did to me. You know. But all I knew, I was 1 second I was dead. 1 second I was completely in misery, and the next second I was completely free and full of joy. And like, how do you explain that? You're like, oh, that's just coincidence. Yeah, right. Been trying to do it my whole life, And then when I hear the word of the Lord one time, and bam, you know. I don't know. It's just crazy how he does what he does, and it's just he makes war through righteousness and equity are his weapons. So he fills you with righteousness and he fills you with equity. And then you are slain. You're brought into life with him. You're slain according to Adam and brought to life according to Christ. It's just so simple.
Amazing, amazing, amazing.
So, well, anyway, we've already gone about an hour, a little over an hour now. So it was very good talking with you. I think we probably should cut her down. But do you have anything you want to say before you leave? You if you get a chance, you need to check. I should have told you earlier. I didn't want to interrupt you, but do you have like a little word box, like a bubble up on your like right side of your screen? And it'll give all
Like
the
a
comments.
comment box.
Yeah, there'll be the comment
Yeah.
box. You got a lot of comments of people that were encouraged by what you're saying. It's really good. So
It's nice meeting everybody. I hope that we can get everybody in. Not that I met everybody, but whoever's out there. Hi. I hope we get to, you know, continue this with everybody and get to know everybody a little bit more. And
well, I'll send you that Discord app invite. Yeah, and there's another way to video chat on there. I don't know how many people can get on screen there, but I think there's a big way we could probably get together. I mean, I don't know what people are envisioning about that, but getting together, I just think is more important to BS. We don't have to. I mean, scriptures will always come up,
yeah.
and you know.
So if I were, let me see, I'm trying to click on. Will I be able to go and see those?
Yeah, after we get done, you'll be able to go through and look at them.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty cool. Everything you've been talking about today was so pertinent and so nice. I was so glad to have you here. So good to talk with you after all this time.
Well,
See
I
the Lord.
appreciate your videos, Josh, because I was just living in my own little world and I knew what I was doing, but I wasn't even relating it to like fellowship. To me, it was just like, well, this is what I am doing. I know the Lord loves me. I'm just going to go out and do and live how, like I was Eve, just in my own world, free. And then when I started listening to you again, it's just like, oh my God, this like whole, it's, anyways, I appreciate your videos, appreciate you sticking with it and just getting it out there because it's incredible.
I'm blown away that he would show it to us.
Absolutely.
just the foolish of the world. But I don't know, maybe it's because we're all hard headed or something. We won't quit. But anyway, well, I'll have to get going. But it was really good talking with you, and hopefully we can chat again. And this was really great.
Okay, good to see you too.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.
I can get out of this.
I know.
It won't let me go. Oh, there he goes.